Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from Skiessentials.com. Welcome to episode 5 of our Top 5 Fridays news videos. We're kind of back to more COVID-19 topics this week, especially compared to last week when we didn't have many at all. But I think there's some positive, interesting developments. Less negativity than maybe what we were talking about when we started these Top 5 Fridays videos. So first up this week, we've got a series of ski resort openings pretty much across the country, mostly all out west. Of course, we're kind of running out of snow here on the east. But yeah, skiing is reopening in a lot of places. So for one, we've got Beartooth Basin. We've talked about them before. The current plan for them is to reopen on May 30th. And then they're pretty much just going to operate until the snow is gone. Obviously that's 2 weeks away, so things could change. So if anything changes, we'll let you know. Timberline in Oregon at Mount Hood. We talked about them last week. They actually reopened today. Almost just knocked my microphone off. Today was their first day of operation. And they're basically doing it as we kind of discussed in the past. It's a reservation system. It's kind of sort of like reserving a tee time, except there's not times that you have to go out. But they're limiting it to a certain number of people each day. If you want to go ski Timberline, the reservations open at 9 a.m. in the morning for the following day. And you kind of got to be on it right away. They really are limiting the amount of people that can get up there, and a lot of people want to go skiing. This morning, the reservations were all booked in less than half an hour. My colleague Matt and I were kind of watching it, and yeah, in less than half an hour, they were gone. So pretty interesting. And yeah, if you want to go skiing, you need to get your spot in there as early as you can. I think it's really cool the way that they're doing it. Obviously, it'd be great if everybody that wanted to go could go, but I think this is a safe and responsible way to kind of start opening things back up. Basin, we've talked about them in the past. They're looking to reopen as well. There's less, less concrete information out of Basin right now. Basically, in Colorado, they're waiting for an announcement from the governor, which is supposed to come on May 25th. That'll kind of dictate whether they'll be able to open or not. If you've ever skied Basin in the spring, or if you've ever lived in Summit County, you know that certain definite possibility that they could reopen after that. Basin holds snow really well, super high elevation, and yeah, and I lived in Summit County for a year, and the way that place holds snow is pretty impressive compared to kind of everything else around it. And then Mount Bachelor is also reopening. Very, very similar method to what we just talked about with Timberline. Reservation system. They're going to be staying open from now until May 24th, and then after that they'll be open for uphill access. But same kind of thing, you got to reserve your spot. I think with them it's 36 hours in advance, and they are limiting it to 500 total spots. So, same thing there. If you want to go skiing, you got to get your name in there pretty soon. Next up, this is sort of COVID-19 related, I guess. Yeah, of course it is. The U.S. ski team is basically brainstorming ways and trying to come up with creative ways to get back on snow again in a safe way. And a lot of this is in response to the fact that international teams, specifically European teams in certain areas, are already back on snow. So the U.S. team doesn't want to feel like they're being left behind, so to speak. So pretty interesting report from Skiessentials.com. Definitely check it out if you have time and are interested. A few different avenues or a few different ways for them to get back on snow. Obviously, Timberline, number one. I mean, when I was there last summer, I got to see firsthand kind of the way that they separate the lanes, and it's a ton of race teams. So I'm sure the U.S. team will be making their way to Timberline at some point. They do have a scheduled training block in June at Mammoth, and they're cautiously optimistic that maybe that will be able to happen. Although, from everything that we've heard, I'm guessing not. But that's just my my opinion, based on what we've heard directly from Mammoth. And then they're also looking into possible travel to Argentina. That would specifically be for the women's team, or New Zealand for the men's team. But pretty interesting. They're, just trying to find ways to get back on snow and continue training. Next up, we have an interview. I think this is really cool, and actually the whole series is pretty interesting. They're called Storm Skiing Journal and Podcast. If you haven't heard from them before, it's really interesting stuff. This in particular is an interview with Rusty Gregory, who is the CEO of the Alterra company. And basically the interview is kind of telling the shutdown story from his perspective. So kind of interesting to hear it from the CEO of, a huge player in the ski industry. Obviously the Icon Pass has become massive. So really interesting to hear it from his perspective. And it's actually, this is the 9th in a series of, interviews and conversations surrounding COVID-19 and its effect on the ski industry. So check that out if you've got some time to kill. I know personally I've been listening to a lot of podcasts from home. So there's another one that you can add to your list. As always, all the links to everything that I'm talking about will be in the description to this video. So scroll down and you can check that out. And then the last kind of news topic of the day today, UV light. We've heard a lot about UV light. It's been kind of bouncing around the news in different ways over the past few weeks or month or so. But this is basically NBC News out of Denver reporting on UV light being used to disinfect the mountain lodges, specifically lodges in Breckenridge owned by Breckenridge Grand Vacations. I thought this was really interesting because I think it's something that you're going to see more and more of. And in fact, our brick and mortar location here in Stowe, Vermont, Pinnacle Ski and Sports, we got the go-ahead from our governor to open this coming Monday. And basically Pinnacle is taking a series of pretty serious steps to maintain the safest possible, healthiest possible environment. And one of those things is we're constructing a UV light room. And it's basically, anything that's touched. So any rental item, rollerblade, we rent rollerblades on a rec path in the summer, rollerblades, helmets, and then like any kind of clothing that gets tried on, or really anything on the sales floor that's touched will get run through the UV light room for disinfectant. So really interesting, and I expect that we're going to see more and more of this. A few years or many years ago now, I lived, back when I was living in Summit County, I managed a shop that had a little small rental operation in it. And, I remember spraying all the disinfectant things in helmets and boots all the time. And I would imagine that in a lot of places, the procedures will move away from stuff like that and more towards these UV light rooms and UV light systems. So really interesting, and I thought that was cool because it's very much in line with what our own company is doing and talking about right now. And then lastly, we have our edits of the week as always. Pretty light week for edits this week. First, we've got a crash reel from Level 1's Romance. I just watched this like literally right before I came down here, and there are some hard falls in that video. So I guess if you don't like watching people fall, don't watch it. But it's pretty entertaining and appropriately titled Love Hurts. I don't think anybody got seriously injured in it. So usually when that happens, well, I shouldn't say usually, there are some crash reels out there with serious injuries in them. Like Teddy Bear Crisis crash reel has some serious injuries in it. And then the second edit of the week, this is pretty cool. I like edits of this style. Basically an edit from Daniel Hanka called Czech Adventures, which tells the story of Daniel needed a new filmer. He reached out online, he reached out online through his network, so to speak, got in touch with somebody who he had never met before, and this is kind of the story of their first month together. And it's really interesting, just really interesting hearing the story and seeing what these two people were able to accomplish and produce, having never met each other in person before. which I think is just a pretty good example of how our society is functioning in general these days, and especially right now. So that's it. That's our Top 5 Fridays news article, news video this week. May 15th today. Probably should have started with that. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more topics next week. Oh, and if you missed it, we reviewed this Bonafide 97 just a couple days ago. So brand new ski from Blizzard. Check that out if you haven't already. Thank you.